Violet, everyone's staying home due to the ice storm. Christmas dinner is canceled. Stay safe. That was the message from my mom, a simple text, short and to the point. I stared at my phone, feeling a pang of disappointment, but I understood. After all, winters in Nashville could be dangerous. What I didn't know then was that this seemingly harmless message would unravel years of deception and expose a heartbreaking truth that would change my life forever. My name is Violet, and I'm 30 years old. I work as an accountant, and up until last Christmas, I thought I was just the odd one out in my family, the quiet, career-focused daughter who never quite fit in with their loud social gatherings. My younger sister, Anna, had always been the star, the golden child who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. She was vibrant, spontaneous, and effortlessly charming, while I was the responsible, practical one. I had spent years convincing myself that our differences were just that, differences. But that Christmas, everything changed. That morning, with no family plans, I tried to make the best of it. I made myself a cup of hot chocolate, curled up on the couch, and put on a holiday movie. The loneliness gnawed at me, but I reminded myself that it was just one Christmas, just one canceled gathering. Then, around 3 p.m., as I scrolled through Instagram absent-mindedly, my heart stopped. There it was, a fresh post from my cousin Nia. Perfect family Christmas at Anna's. So blessed to have everyone together. Family traditions. Christmas, dinner. The accompanying photo made my stomach drop. My entire family, my parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, even my grandmother, were all gathered around Anna's elegant dining table. They were dressed in festive sweaters, laughing, toasting, smiling. They looked happy. They looked complete. Without me. Through the windows in the background of the photos, I could see clear, sunny skies. No ice storm, no dangerous roads. There had never been a storm at all. My hands shook as I scrolled through more pictures. My dad carving the turkey, my mom setting out her signature Christmas cookies, my little nieces and nephews eagerly unwrapping presents. Every snapshot captured a moment of joy, of togetherness, and I wasn't supposed to see any of it. The excuse had been a lie, a convenient, well-crafted lie. A lie meant to exclude me. I felt sick. My mind raced. How many times had they done this before? How many times had they told me an event was canceled, only for it to happen without me? How long had they been coordinating behind my back, deliberately leaving me out while pretending to care? I had spent my whole life believing that my family loved me, even if they didn't always show it the way I wished they would. But this was calculated. This was cruel. The next morning, my phone rang. My mother's name flashed on the screen. With a deep breath, I answered. "Hi, honey. Hope you had a nice, quiet Christmas. We missed you." Missed me. The casual cruelty of her words made my fists clench. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Growing up, I had always tried to be the good daughter. I helped my mom with chores, maintained straight A's in school, and even abandoned my dream of attending art school to pursue accounting, because my parents insisted it was more practical. Meanwhile, Anna had been free to do whatever she wanted. When she dropped out of college to become a yoga instructor, they called her brave. When I worked overtime to help them pay off their mortgage, they barely acknowledged it. I should have seen the truth years ago. The warning signs had always been there. 3 years ago, when my dad needed surgery, I took 3 weeks off work to care for him. I cooked, cleaned, drove him to appointments, and managed his medication. Anna visited once. She stayed for an hour, took a few selfies with him for social media, then left for a yoga retreat. Yet, in my parents' retelling of that time, Anna was the devoted daughter, the one who had been by his side through it all, while I was merely doing what was expected of me. My extended family wasn't much better. At every gathering, my aunts would praise Anna's free spirit, while asking me when I was going to loosen up and enjoy life. My achievements at work were dismissed as dull and uninspiring, while Anna's latest adventures, whether it was teaching yoga in Bali or backpacking through Europe, became the highlight of every family conversation. Even last month, I had spent hours in the kitchen helping my mom prepare for Thanksgiving, only to overhear her telling everyone that Anna had done all the work while I had simply sat around. I had swallowed my hurt, just like I always did. I had told myself it didn't matter, that family was family, that they loved me in their own way. When Anna announced she'd be hosting Christmas this year, I had eagerly offered to help with the planning and cooking. She brushed me off, smiling sweetly as she said, "I want it to be perfect." I should have known then. I should have seen the signs. But I had still been clinging to the fiction of a happy family, one where I mattered, one where I belonged. I had been blind, but not anymore. They had excluded me from spontaneous family gatherings that everyone else somehow knew about. Time and time again, I convinced myself that if I just tried harder, worked longer, gave more, maybe then they would finally see me as worthy of being part of their perfect family picture. "Hi, honey. Hope you had a nice, quiet Christmas. We missed you." My mother's voice was filled with fake cheerfulness, but it made my stomach turn. I gripped my phone tighter, my eyes flicking back to the Instagram photos still open on my laptop. Undeniable evidence of the perfect family gathering I had been deliberately excluded from. "Really?" I managed to keep my voice steady. "Because Nina's social media posts show everyone had a wonderful time at Anna's house. Everyone except me." The silence on the other end was deafening. I could almost see my mother's face, that familiar expression she wore when she was caught in a lie but was already scrambling to craft an excuse. "Oh, well," she stammered. "Anna organized it last minute, and you know how you can be at gatherings. Always so quiet, making everyone uncomfortable. We just thought..." "Thought what?" I pressed, my heart pounding. "That it would be better to lie to me? To make me spend Christmas alone while pretending everyone else was doing the same?" "Don't be so dramatic," my mother sighed, her exasperation seeping through the phone. "We were trying to avoid any awkwardness. You know how Anna wanted everything to be perfect." And that was when it hit me. All the past canceled events. The times plans had mysteriously fallen through, the family photos I had stumbled upon later on social media. This wasn't an isolated incident. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a pattern. My voice came out barely a whisper. "How many times?" Another heavy silence. And then, "Violet, you're being oversensitive. This is exactly why," I cut her off, my frustration boiling over. "Why you exclude me. Why you pretend I don't exist unless you need something. Why Anna gets to be the perfect daughter while I'm treated like an inconvenience." "That's not fair," my mother protested. "We love you both equally. It's just..." "Anna puts in the effort to be part of the family. You're always so busy with work." I let out a bitter laugh. "Busy? You mean busy helping pay your mortgage? Busy taking care of Dad after his surgery? That kind of busy?" "Listen," my mother's voice hardened. "If you're going to be like this, maybe it's best if we give each other some space. Call me when you're ready to be reasonable." The line went dead. I sat there, staring at my phone as 32 years of memories suddenly sharpened into painful focus. Every excuse, every dismissal, every misunderstanding. It had never been accidental. It had never been about me not fitting in. I wasn't the problem. I never had been. And that realization snapped something inside me. I was done being the family doormat. I opened my laptop, my fingers flying across the keyboard as years of pent-up emotions spilled out into an email addressed to my entire family. Parents, sister, aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone who had been at that Christmas. "I've seen the photos from Christmas dinner," I wrote. "The dinner I was told was canceled due to an imaginary ice storm. I want you all to know exactly what you've done. You didn't just exclude me from a family gathering, you coordinated an elaborate lie to ensure I spent Christmas alone." I attached screenshots of my mom's "stay home, everyone's doing the same" text messages, alongside the social media photos that exposed their betrayal. Then, before I could second-guess myself, I hit send. The responses started flooding in almost immediately. My Aunt Marie claimed they forgot to tell me that the plans had changed. Uncle Robert suggested I was overreacting. My cousin Nia, the very one whose post had exposed their deception, quickly deleted all the Christmas photos and sent me a weak, guilt-ridden apology. But it was too late. I finally saw the truth, and I was done pretending otherwise. The messages started rolling in. First a curt text accusing me of causing unnecessary drama. Then came Anna's response. a long, condescending email dripping with self-righteousness. She scolded me for never making an effort at family events and claimed she just wanted one perfect holiday. As if that wasn't enough, she had the audacity to suggest that excluding me had been for my own good. "You obviously don't enjoy family gatherings, Violet," she wrote, as if she knew me better than I knew myself. But it was my parents' reaction that truly shattered any lingering illusions I had about them. Instead of acknowledging their deception, instead of apologizing, they went on the offensive. My mother began calling mutual family friends, spinning a dramatic tale about how I was having some kind of emotional breakdown. Meanwhile, my father sent me a stern email, reprimanding me for airing our dirty laundry and insisting that respecting family privacy was more important than my feelings. "You've really done it now," Anna texted me later that night. "Mom's crying, everyone's upset, and it's all because you couldn't just accept that maybe you're the problem. This is exactly why we didn't want you at Christmas." I felt like I was living in an alternate reality. They had deliberately excluded me, deceived me, and then, when confronted with the truth, twisted the narrative until I was somehow the villain. The more I stood my ground, the more they manipulated the situation to paint me as the unreasonable one. When I refused to apologize for calling them out, they escalated. My mother began showing up at my workplace unannounced, causing scenes in the lobby. Anna took to social media, posting vague updates about toxic people and choosing peace over family. My father, in his final act of control, threatened to cut me out of his will if I didn't get in line. But their attempts to intimidate me only reinforced what I had finally come to understand. This wasn't a loving family trying to protect itself from a difficult member. This was a toxic system clinging desperately to control over someone who had finally stopped playing by their rules. That was when I knew exposing their lies wasn't enough. I needed to break free completely. And I needed to show them exactly what happens when you push away the one person who has always been there for you. A week after my explosive email, I received an unexpected message from Rachel, an old family friend who had once managed my parents' finances before retiring years ago. "Violet, I've been seeing what's happening with your family on social media. There's something you need to know. Can we meet?" Curious and slightly apprehensive, I agreed. We met at a quiet cafe downtown, and when I arrived, Rachel looked uneasy, clutching a manila envelope tightly in her hands. "I've been carrying the guilt of this for years," she said, sliding the envelope across the table toward me. "Your father swore me to secrecy, but after seeing how they're treating you now, I can't stay quiet anymore." With trembling hands, I opened the envelope. Inside were bank statements and legal documents dating back 15 years. As I read through them, my breath caught in my throat, and my vision blurred. According to these records, my grandfather had left behind a significant inheritance, nearly $300,000, intended specifically for my education and future. Money I had never even known existed. "Your father was the trustee," Rachel explained softly. "He was supposed to give you access when you turned 25. Instead, he transferred everything into Anna's accounts. He used it to fund her lifestyle, her travels, her failed business ventures." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. All those years I had worked overtime to pay for my accounting degree. The sleepless nights, the sacrifices, the loans I had struggled to pay off. And all along my own family had stolen from me. The realization hit me like a tidal wave. All those student loans I was still struggling to pay off, all the times I had helped my parents with their mortgage, believing we were all working together as a family. Meanwhile, they had been sitting on my inheritance the entire time, spending it on Anna. "There's more," Rachel continued, her voice heavy. "Your grandfather also left behind several properties meant to be split equally between you and Anna. Your parents sold them all, using the power of attorney they had you sign when you were 18. Remember when they told you it was just for emergency medical decisions?" I felt sick. The document I had trustingly signed had given them complete control over my financial interests. They had systematically robbed me of my inheritance while watching me struggle, all while guilting me into helping with their expenses and making me feel like I never contributed enough to the family. But the betrayal didn't stop there. The bank statements showed a long history of transfers labeled as business investments, money taken directly from my inheritance to fund Anna's lavish lifestyle. Her yoga studios, her retreats in Bali, her endless string of failed business ventures. The very adventures they had endlessly praised her for, while simultaneously belittling my boring accounting career. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked Rachel, my voice barely steady. She hesitated for a moment before sighing. "Because I saw your mother's social media posts painting you as unstable and ungrateful. They're trying to discredit you before you can uncover the truth. Violet, what they've done isn't just morally wrong, it's illegal." Everything suddenly clicked into place. Their escalating attempts to portray me as unreasonable, my father's threats to cut me out of the will when they had already stolen what was rightfully mine, their desperate need to maintain the illusion that Anna was the successful daughter while I was the difficult one. I carefully packed the documents back into the envelope, my mind racing. "Thank you, Rachel. I know exactly what I need to do now." This wasn't just about a ruined Christmas anymore. This was about years of calculated deception and theft. And I, an accountant with extensive experience in tracking financial fraud, was uniquely qualified to make sure they faced the consequences. With Rachel's documents in hand, I spent the next week meticulously building my case. Every unauthorized transfer, every misused power of attorney, every fraudulent document, I traced it all. I compiled bank statements, transaction records, and legal paperwork, ensuring I had an airtight case. To strengthen my position, I hired Sarah Chen, a lawyer specializing in estate fraud, to review everything. "This is a clear case of financial exploitation," Sarah confirmed. "We can file criminal charges if you want to pursue that route." I considered my options carefully. A criminal case would destroy my family's reputation, but they had already destroyed our relationship. Still, I decided to give them one final chance to make things right. I sent an email to my parents and Anna requesting a family meeting to resolve our differences. They jumped at the opportunity, probably assuming they could manipulate me back into submission. We agreed to meet at my apartment the following Saturday. The morning of the meeting, I arranged 3 folders neatly on my dining table, one for each of them. Inside each folder was a complete record of their fraud, along with a letter from my lawyer outlining their options. They had 2 choices: transfer all remaining funds back to me and sign a written confession, or face criminal charges. When they arrived, they looked smug, clearly expecting me to apologize. My mother wasted no time, launching into her usual patronizing tone. "Catherine, we're so glad you've come to your senses." I cut her off by sliding the folders across the table. "Before anyone says another word, I suggest you read these." The color drained from my father's face as he scanned the documents. Anna's hands trembled. My mother, ever the master manipulator, tried to regain control of the situation. "This is ridiculous," she snapped. "You're trying to blackmail your own family." I let out a cold, humorless laugh. "Blackmail? No, I'm giving you a choice. Return my inheritance with interest and admit what you did, or I'll let the police handle it." Rachel had already agreed to testify. "Rachel had no right," my father started, his voice trembling with anger. "You had no right," I interrupted, my own voice steady, unwavering. "You stole from me for years while watching me struggle. You used my power of attorney to sell property that was rightfully mine. You funded Anna's lifestyle with my inheritance." Anna burst into tears. "I didn't know," she sobbed. "They told me the money was from their savings." "Don't lie," I replied calmly. "The transfers went directly into your accounts. You knew exactly what you were doing." My mother, ever the manipulator, tried a different approach. "Think about what this will do to the family. What will people say?" I met her gaze without hesitation. "You should have thought about that before stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from your own daughter." Silence filled the room. I had given them a clear ultimatum. You have 48 hours to decide. Either sign the confession and arrange the transfers, or I go to the police. They left in a panic, my father practically dragging my hysterical mother and sister out the door. Within hours, the family group chat exploded with messages from relatives, most of them taking their side, of course, but I remained calm. I had truth and evidence on my side. "The ball's in their court now," I told Sarah over the phone that evening, "but something tells me they're not going to make the right choice." I was ready for whatever came next. After all, they had already given me the greatest gift: freedom from their manipulation. The 48-hour deadline came and went. Just as I expected, my family chose pride over honesty. They didn't sign the confession. They didn't arrange any transfers. Instead, they scrambled to cover their tracks, closing accounts, shredding documents, even attempting to pressure Rachel into retracting her statement. What they didn't know was that I had already submitted everything to the authorities. The morning after the deadline passed, I formally filed charges. By afternoon, the police were at their doors with search warrants. I watched from my office as the story unfolded. My father was escorted from his workplace in handcuffs. Anna's yoga studio, an empire built on stolen money, was seized as an asset. My mother, the queen of appearances, was arrested in the middle of a charity committee meeting, her carefully curated social image crumbling in an instant. The family group chat erupted again, but this time the tone was different. Relatives who had once dismissed my claims were now silent as the truth became public record. The local newspaper ran a headline about a prominent family's fall from grace. Years of carefully maintained deception shattered in a single day. That evening, my phone buzzed with a message from Rachel. "You did the right thing. Your grandfather would be proud." She was right. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice. As I watched my family's carefully constructed lies unravel, I didn't feel joy. I felt relief. The truth was finally out, and I was finally free. 1 year later, I sat in my new home in Denver, watching the snow fall outside my window. The court case had concluded months ago. My father and mother had taken plea deals, agreeing to pay restitution. Anna's yoga empire had crumbled, and she had finally been forced to get a real job as a receptionist. The perfect family image they had worked so hard to maintain was gone forever. Most of the relatives who had enabled their behavior for years had stopped speaking to me. But surprisingly, I found I didn't miss them. Instead, I had built something far more valuable: a new support system. Genuine friends who valued honesty over appearances. Colleagues who respected my work ethic. Even a few distant cousins who had reached out to apologize for their past behavior. Rachel visited me last week. Over coffee, she handed me an old photo album she had found while cleaning out her office. Inside were pictures of my grandfather and me, moments I had almost forgotten. In one photo, he was teaching me to fish, both of us laughing at something long lost to time. "He always said you were the strong one," Rachel told me. "He knew they favored Anna, but he believed you would overcome it." I touched the photograph gently, remembering his kind smile. He had tried to protect my future through that inheritance. And though it had taken years, his final gift had ultimately given me something far more valuable than money: the courage to stand up for myself, and the freedom to build a life on my own terms. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting free. Looking back on everything that happened, I've come to realize some of the most important lessons of my life. And if you're listening, if you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, I want you to hear me clearly. Family is not defined by blood alone. It's defined by love, respect, and reciprocity. The people who truly care for you will not make you beg for their acceptance. They will not manipulate you, gaslight you, or make you feel like you are never enough. If you find yourself constantly proving your worth to someone, step back and ask yourself, why do I need to convince them to love me? For years, I made excuses for their behavior. I told myself that if I worked harder, gave more, and sacrificed my own dreams, maybe, just maybe, they would finally see me as worthy. But the truth is, people who do not value you will always find a way to diminish you. It's not your job to shrink yourself to fit into their world. The betrayal I faced was painful, but it was also liberating. It forced me to see my family for who they really were. And it taught me one of the greatest truths of all. Sometimes, walking away is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. If you have ever felt like you were always the one trying, always the one bending, always the one left behind, know this: you are not the problem. You never were. I had to let go of the illusion of family in order to build a life where I was truly valued, and you can too. Don't waste your years seeking approval from people who will never give it. Instead, invest in yourself. Surround yourself with people who see your worth without you having to prove it. And remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting free. So if you ever find yourself at a crossroads, standing between, staying in a toxic cycle or choosing yourself, choose you. Always choose you.